Hello, and thank you for clicking on another Goodies podcast YouTube video. As Jeff is here, and this time around we've taken an interview from 2011 with comedy historian Robert Ross, in which he talked about the Goodies, naturally enough, Marty, missing episodes and various other subjects. Now, the re-release of this interview was inspired by Robert Ross's own videos over on his channel. He's done some absolute corkers recently, including one about Hancock, one about Sid James, and it just inspired us to get his video and give it a good remastering and re-editing, which it desperately needed because the sound quality from almost a decade ago was just awful. So we've spruced it up and trimmed it down and are presenting it here on YouTube for you. So please enjoy. And now on the Goodies podcast, we're very excited to have Goodies author, amongst other things, Mr. Robert Ross. Robert, thank you very much for coming on.
My pleasure. Hello, how are you doing?
Going very well. All the better for hearing from you all the way over there in the UK.
Oh, flattery will get you everywhere, my friend.
Now, Robert, in general terms, we of Goodies fandom sort of think of you as our Goodies author, and then other people will think of you as their carry-on author. Can you fill us in on how many things you've written about?
I like the fact you think I'm your Goodies author. That's nice. I've obviously spread myself very thinly. Now, I mean, my passion has always been sort of a post-war British comedy. So if I'm known for anything at all, and it's very nice that you think I'm known for anything, but if I'm known for anything, it's certainly the Goodies carry-on films. But I've done 18, 19 books now, so I've done Benny Hill and Steptoe and Son and Sid James and various other people and comedy shows. So lots of comedy stuff. And I've also written some radio Doctor Who's for a company over here called Big Finish. We have the license from the BBC to use the TARDIS and Daleks and various other Doctor Who monsters, plus previous incarnations of the Doctor, so we can write for all the living Doctors up to the new series. So that's Tom Baker, Peter Davison, Colin Baker, who I wrote 3 for, Sylvester McCoy and Paul McGann. So, I've done lots of things, really.
And I just want to get onto your most recent project, and I'll say this because as we're recording this, it hasn't hit the air, but when this goes out, people will have had the opportunity on the 13th of August to watch an episode of It's Marty, and then after that they're screening a 2008 documentary on Marty Feldman with Tim Brooke-Taylor in it, and that will be going out on the same night on BBC Two.
That's right, yes. It's very serendipitous for me because that's my latest book, as you mentioned, is about Marty Feldman. The first biography or first book of any sort, really, on Marty. So I thank the BBC. We didn't plan it like that. It happens to be the fact they've chosen to repeat an episode of It's Marty for the first time in 30-odd years. The Marty book will be out, I think, first week of September. It's coming very soon, and I'm pleased about that.
Oh, okay. Can you give us any other sort of hints on its format? I mean, is it going to be laid out like a Goodies are all okay with lots of pictures, or will it be more textual?
It's a proper pucker biography, this one. The Goodies are all okay book was a delight because, I mean, I was given for the first time access to all the BBC archives and stuff, so we could really plunder all their pictures. And the publisher, Carlton Books, it's quite expensive to make a book like that because obviously, every page is colour pictures. So they were hopeful that the sales would justify, which they did, thankfully. But no, the Marty book will be a biography with a selection of photographs. But it's a biography. I've been very lucky. I've had a lot of help from Marty's sister and her daughter, Marty's niece. So there's some nice early photographs of Marty, sort of pre-eyes, as it were, because obviously he didn't have those distinctive comedy eyes until he was in his 20s. So it's been great fun. I mean, I've been a big fan of Marty's for years, and obviously his connection with Tim is important to Goodies aficionados too. I mean, I think without Marty, we wouldn't have had Python or the Goodies. There were definite rumblings once they saw the huge rating figures that Marty got, that they basically said, this is now BBC style of comedy.
Well, we'll backtrack a little bit now to the Goodies, the complete companion. So fans of the Goodies who are still new to the show, the new generations coming through, they've sort of got a real ideal starting point with the Goodies Rule OK, or as it's known in your neck of the woods, the Goodies, the Complete Companion, because only 30-odd episodes are on video for people, and they can fill in the gaps with this, and it's an ideal way to start doing it.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why that changed the title, because the first press release of it over here was called The Goodies Rule OK, and I think there was some deal with the publishers that an imprint company had a certain amount of copies, and they chose to call it The Complete Companion. Or I had no control over that title change. I wrote it as The Goodies Rule OK, but it's the same book. Don't be fooled, because I used to fall for that when I was a kid. I used to buy different film books and with just different covers on, and they were the same book inside. So it's the one and the same thing. But I don't know. I mean, my dream was always again. I was born in the same year the Goodies started. I'm a 1970 boy, so I mean, I watched it when I was a kid, as everybody I knew did. I mean, it was the show we watched. It was a definite current thing. And then somewhere around about in the mid 80s, it just all changed, and some sinister piece of paper was signed that there will be no more Goodies repeats. And there were a whole generation of people that knew Graham as a sort of a medical comic pundit and knew Bill as a bird watcher, but they didn't know the Goodies really. So when I was at university in the 90s, everybody contemporary of my age loved the Goodies. We would sit in the university bar, and I would give them tapes of Goodies songs to play while we were getting drunk on cheap cider. And I just thought this is, Renaissance could happen here, but it just never seemed to come. I mean, I will go to my grave saying it is the funniest comedy the BBC ever produced. That's, they still don't understand what they had.
Robert, which missing television episode would you magically bring back if you could?
Oh gosh, this is like one story or any TV or comedy or what? Anything at all. It's really difficult. I mean, there's. I mean, I suppose in a weird way it will be Doctor Who, because obviously the Goodies survives intact in one form or other, be it black and white copies or whatever. So we have a complete set of goods. Obviously Python, thanks to the Pythons themselves, exists in complete. It would be either probably the last episode of the 10th Planet Doctor Who, which is the first regeneration from Hartnell to Pat Troughton, or probably a Patrick Troughton story, maybe The Fury from the Deep or something, which is 6 episodes all missing from the archives currently. But there's loads of things. I mean, there's Marty Feldman wrote about 7 or 8 of the Comedy Playhouse shows, none of which exist. So I'd love a handful of those to come back as well. But I mean, I'm always optimistic, because I think things can be found. I mean, we found just recently in the American Library of Congress, they found great swathes of particularly drama stuff. So I think they're out there still. I mean, I just wait and see. But there's so much stuff. I mean, it's a crime, really. I mean, I love the BBC. I mean, I am proud of the BBC, but they did do acts of criminal violence to their own archive by wiping a load of stuff in the 70s, which I think is just disgraceful. And I mean, the people in power now know it was a mistake, because they can make a fortune on DVD releases. But at the time, TV shows, particularly comedy shows and entertainment shows, were considered, Flopson and Jetson, really. They were considered sort of like ephemera. So once they'd been shown once, possibly twice, if they were very popular, like Steptoe and Son, they were considered, non-viable. So the tapes were just literally magnetized and wiped and reused. Ironically, I mean, there was a thing, Steptoe and Son, again, is a bit like the Goodies, and some of Doctor Who has survived in only black and white of colour versions. So, I mean, I think Steptoe is now complete apart from one episode, one Christmas Night with the Stars segment, I think. But, I mean, Steptoe and Son, it exists. But, I mean, I heard rumours that in the 70s, when snooker was so popular on TV, that the episode called Pot Black, where they basically, where Howard and Willie Bramble, Albert, play snooker, was wiped to be used to record a snooker game. That just seems ridiculous to me. But, that was the BBC back in the 70s. The weird thing is, because the written archives in Caversham near Reading in Berkshire over here, you go into the archives and you get like, again, just recently because of the Marty stuff, you get receipts for Marty claiming for a packet of cigarettes, and they keep the invoice for the paperwork, but they actually wipe the program they're working on. But yeah, so a lot of the stuff is all preserved at the BBC. Sorry, that's a long answer to your question. The short answer would be something of Doctor Who, preferably Patrick Troughton. There you go.
And, of course, the recolorization is now getting better and better and better.
It's amazing. Well, again, that was a thing that was showcased via one of the Missing Believe Wipe things, where a chap who was sourced, who was watching, I think, a black and white episode or of a colour broadcast episode, but a black and white tape, which was considered the only one that was left. And he was watching this episode of Dad's Army, and there were occasional sort of glitches of like white light sort of coming onto it, colour, sort of like maybe green flecks coming up. And he thought, well, maybe the colour coordinates are still in this tape. So I can't explain it, I don't understand it myself, but via the magic of computers, they can run this black and white film through a computer and pick up the digital codes of what the colour should have been and recreate it. So it's not that horrible colorization of the 90s where you had to watch Alastair Sim and Scrooge in this horrible sort of garish pinks and greens, or It's a Wonderful Life with James Stewart and these horrible colorizations. I mean, again, that's wrong because their black and white film was made by a director for black and white photography, so it's ruining the whole vision. I'm happy with this, what they're doing with the Dad's Armies and obviously the black and white goodies stuff and some Doctor Who, which John Pertwee episodes survive only in black and white. Because those shows were made in colour, and if they can be recreated as they were first seen, then that should be done.
I've only got one last question for you, really. These are standard questions we ask everybody, and I'll run this by you. 3 things. What would you say is your favourite Goodies episode? What would you say is an ideal average Goodies episode? And what might be your least favourite Goodies episode?
Best average, you mean like sort of one to show to the uninitiated that this is what the Goodies is about, sort of thing?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And the least favourite? It's hard. Okay, we'll have a crack at that. I'll start with my least favourite because I mean I don't really have ones I don't like really. I mean I like them all, but I suppose if I'm pushed, the one I would watch the least times would be the Chowty Bounce one, with Freddie Jones being completely over the top. I love Freddie Jones and he's good in the episode, but it's all about him and there's not very much for the boys to do in it really. So you reduce them to just like 3 jumping toothpaste tubes, which could be anybody in a toothpaste tube. You know, when you put geniuses of comedy like Bill Oddie and Graham Garden and Tim Brooke Taylor in a toothpaste tube, you sort of lose it really. So I suppose that's my least favourite, but I'm not going to say it's bad. It's just my least favourite. The average one, I don't know. I mean, I suppose the one if your 7-year-old son asks you, you know, what the Goodies is and what do the Goodies do, I suppose the cliche one would be show them is Kit and Kong, isn't it? Because it's the one that everyone talks about and it's sort of definitive Goodies in a way. My favourite episode is probably... My favourite as a kid was Dodo Nuts, because I was probably 7 years old when they went out and I was just at the right age to get some of the wacky comedy and I still think it's funny today, so obviously I've not matured at all in the last 33 years. But I think probably the genius, the great episode, the one they should have got an Oscar for, probably Goodies All Okay, which is obviously a longer length version. And it's just a brilliant commentary on 70s politics and 70s popular culture. And, you know, it's like a nostalgic orgasm, that show. You can sit and watch it and there's Bill and Ben and there's the Wombles and there's Dougal and it's like, oh my God, this is what my childhood was all about, really. I remember interviewing Bill once and he said it was one of his greatest, proudest achievements was to kick a Womble in the nuts. So I think that's the one for the Desert Island retreat. I would take the Goodies All Okay.
I think that's as good a place as any to leave it. I think that's a brilliant statement to leave on. What do you think?
I think you're right. Yes, I think we can't go any further than Bill kicking a Womble in the nuts. So it's been great to talk to you. It's been really fun.